Welcome back to the Tool Crib. Today we are revisiting the Gerber Dual Force. Now, for those of you who don't know, Gerber came out with the Dual Force, which is a set of slip lock pliers. And I will say that the slip lock mechanism, everything on there works pretty well. I have had the opportunity to work with this tool for a little while, being as it's more of your heavy duty tool that kind of fits into my realm more. And I gotta say, in some ways I like it, and in other ways I'm a little bit disappointed. So first let's start with the jaws on here. Now, I was just trying this out on a couple of different bolts, and I will say that for lightly or moderately tightened bolts, it did pretty well on removing or being able to grip onto them. But if I had a bolt that was really set on tightly, then it tended to slip. The jaws just don't tend to grip in there. In fact, let me see if I can highlight this a little bit. In fact, my jaws have they're so soft that they're starting to round off a little bit just from the couple of bolts that I tried this with. So while the design is pretty well done, it's just not built strong enough, or the steel that they're using is just not strong enough to make it a viable option for heavy duty use. For moderate use, I think it'd still be all right, because I had to put a lot of grip strength behind this in order just to hold on to that fastener. I will say you can get quite a bit of force on this multi-tool, but in the end it still tended to round off, and so it just doesn't quite fit the bill for me. Now, when it came to the wire cutting capability, it did all right. I was expecting it to be not quite as good as it was, probably because of the fact that the cutters are behind the jaws. But I tried it on soft wire. In fact, I tried it on various sizes of soft wire, both in solid and in stranded. It did better in solid for sure than it did in stranded. In stranded, a couple times it tried to catch a little bit, so it wasn't a truly clean cut, but it did okay. It did a lot better on stuff like tie wire, though, where it was able to just snap it. It did fantastic on that. I didn't really have anything big enough to try out the hard wire cutters to see if they would work well. I suppose I could have put a nail on it, but I don't really want to ruin this set. I was just trying to do some light testing with it. So the plier mechanism all works great. The slip lock mechanism works fantastic on this. It just didn't have any issue with it slipping out, or trying to change positions on me. Any problem like that. The problem that I had is that the jaws themselves are just too soft. That's what it boils down to. Good concept, not great materials is how I'll put that. So the saw itself was, I'm going to say it was adequate. It wasn't exceptional, but it did a decent enough job. So I tested this on just some regular 2x4, and then I put it up against my Leatherman Surge as well, which in my Surge I use a Lenox aftermarket blade. So it's not quite a fair comparison because that Lenox blade is really good. But it did decent. I still think the Leatherman will cut just a little bit better than this one, because this is quite a thick blade. The blade that they use on here is a lot thicker than what you're going to find with other multi-tool manufacturers, but the teeth were sharp enough to really get through that, so it didn't do too bad at all. It would have liked it to be a little bit better, maybe if this were a little thinner in profile, but then again, it would make it a little less rigid as well. Maybe they were trying to maintain the rigidity as opposed to making it a little better cutter. So it does okay. It's not terrible. It's not excellent, but it's not terrible either. And then the file. Okay, so I tried to file up against, this is where the Leatherman really shines, is because the file on the Leatherman is just built better. That's all there is to it. Now, I tried this on just some regular A36 steel, and it did okay. It takes a little bit longer to file something down. I started with the crosshatch first, and then went over to the single cut file. It did decent, about on par with what the saw blade was. With the Leatherman, being as it has a nice crosshatch file and then a diamond file to go along with it, it did the same task better and in less time. So maybe a little bit unfair comparison because this one doesn't have a diamond file, but even on the crosscut, you could tell the difference between the Gerber and the Leatherman. Now, I will say that I don't have footage of it, but the chisel portion of it, or the scraper, worked pretty well. I tried it on just doing a little bit of feathering on some wood and to use it as a scraping tool to scrape off some old residue, and it did pretty well. So that was done pretty decently. I wish the file was a little harder, so that it would cut through that steel a little bit easier. It probably work a lot better on wood. Of course, it's going to gum up a little bit on you as well. Now, the knife blade on here, I haven't been all that impressed with it. It didn't come out of the factory that sharp, and I barely use this thing, so I'm going to show you it. It does decent sometimes, but a lot of times it'll catch like that. So sometimes it'll catch decent, maybe if I get on the right part of the blade. Gerber's not real great about telling us what blade steel they put in there, and a lot of times they're putting in a lot inferior quality of blade steel than what other manufacturers will. I'm sure it can be sharpened up and stropped up to make it a decent enough blade. Being as it's a little softer steel, I'm sure it's not going to be hard to put a decent edge on there, but the edge is not going to last for that long. So Gerber really needs to upgrade their steels in pretty much everything, in the file and in the knife blade as well. If they increase that quality, and the jaws of the pliers, they increase the quality of the steel that they're putting in there a little bit. Of course, that's going to make the tool more expensive as well. We all know that. Then they'll be more on par with some of these, with Leatherman and Victorinox. Not to say that they're miles above them, but they're definitely a better quality of steels that are being used in both of those multi-tools. Now, the saving grace to this multi-tool is definitely the driver. This is one thing Gerber has done really well. The same driver that they put on the Center Drive and the Center Drive Plus has proven to be exceptional. It is just a fantastic screwdriver, the ability to get it centered out into the frame of the tool where it's really comfortable to use, and then you're using regular bits in it, and then a couple of bit storage on board. The only thing that could have made this better is if maybe they would have had it as double-sided bits as opposed to single-sided, but then they might not have been able to get these in there as well. So, it's all everything with multi-tools is compromised, so you just do the best with what you can. But this is definitely the saving grace of their multi-tool. I really, really like the driver that they came out with a few years ago, and it works really well in this multi-tool as well. I'll tell you the one thing I like about the Dual Force is that they're not trying to do too much with it. I like this concept of these 4 larger tools with some extra bit storage and then the slip lock pliers. Had the quality been better on this tool, boy, this would be a tradesman's go-to, I would think. Got to get a better file in there for sure. Got to get a better knife blade in there, better quality steel. Got to get better jaws use better quality steel in the pliers themselves. The rest of it is pretty good. I like the fact that they have a nice strong frame to them. They use that same 6-brake frame, so it makes the handles on either side really robust. The wire cutters, though, I would prefer them be at the top. Don't seem to do too bad where they're located now. If they can increase the quality of the steels, then it's going to be a much, much better tool. Maybe if they brought this one into USA production and just up the quality on a little bit, even if they have to jump the price up on these another $30 or $40 by getting better quality steels in here, I think it would still be worth it to the right people. In the trades, this would be great because the main tools that you need out on the job site, and well, it depends on your field too, but it's going to be your pliers, your knife blade, and your driver. Oftentimes the file and the saw are going to come in handy as well, depending on what trade you happen to be in. But on the whole, it does decent. So I'm going to say it's probably a low B grade tool right now. A little better steel qualities, and that would jump it into an A category real quick. And if they had just had better, if they really paid attention and tried to do the best they could with the best quality steels they could get in this, they could probably take the market on this for an industrial, truly industrial multi-tool. As it is now, still a decent tool, but it's lacking a little bit. I hate to bash on Gerber too much because I really like how they are trying to think outside the box with a lot of their recent multi-tools. They've done really well from a design or engineering standpoint. It's just they have to use better quality materials. Well, my name is Ben. You've been watching the Texas Tool Crib. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.